Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good day all my dearest friends and our honorable teacher, Mr. Herditya. This time we will present our group discussion result about a short story. We choose a short story titled The Masque of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Lestari Islamiati, and my friends Della Fitriani, Fania Dwi Yanti, and Suryo Djagad Kurniansyah. Now we're going to the topic, and first my friend Suryo Djagad Kurniansyah will talk about the main elements.
Okay, and the first part, and the part that I will explain to you is the main elements. And the first section of this part is plot. There are 6 parts in this section, which the first one is exposition, and followed by rising action, and finally the conflict, climax, falling action, and the last is resolution. And the first part, the exposition, which is the introduction of the whole story, the characters, and then the introduction of the problem, conflict. A country devastated by a plague known as the Red Death. The prince of the country, Prince Prospero, tries to avoid the contagious disease by hiding in his castle with his friends, then followed by the rising action. They throw a masquerade ball and decorate each room of the palace in a different color. And finally, the conflict. The conflict that the characters face in this story is an external conflict, which means struggle with a force outside oneself. In this case, the prince and his friends struggle against nature, the fears called the Red Death. And finally, the climax. The appearance of an intruder resembling someone who had died from the Red Death and anger the prince. And the falling action, which is the prince died while trying to catch the stranger, while the other party men attacked the stranger. Apparently, there's nobody beneath the costume. And the last is resolution. Everyone then dies, for the Red Death has infiltrated the castle. And then we move to the second part, which is the characters. There are 2 main characters in this story, which is the first one. First one is Prince Prospero, which is the flat character. He is a character who reveals only 1, maybe 2 personality traits in a story or novel, and the traits do not change. In the Masque of the Red Death, the prince is described to be someone who is selfish and cowardly. It is shown in the story that he is hiding in his castle and does not seem to care about his poor dying people until he died because of the fires. And the next one is the intruder, which is a static character. A static character is a character that remains primarily the same throughout a story or novel. Events in this story do not alter a static character's outlook, personality, motivation, perception, habits, and so on. Because the intruder is not actually a human, it does not indicate a change in its personality. It does not say anything and just walk around from one room to another. And the next one is narrative perspective. The angle from this story is told from third person omniscient. An all-knowing narrator tells the story and moves between characters' action and feelings. The narrator tells us all the situation about how the Red Death severely affects the country, the masquerade party, the rooms, and the characters' feeling. It does not solely focus on the prince or a particular character. And the next one is the setting. This story takes place on the Prince Prospero's castle, and the time of this story is in medieval period, which is in a period of approximately 6 months during the reign of the Red Death, and it is happen at night. And then for the social condition, there are injustice to the people and the irresponsible ruler, which is the prince hiding cowardly without even care about his people who are dying from the Red Death.
Okay, thank you. And now I will talk about the first explanation about what is actually the intruder. The intruder. We can find at the end of the story, it said that apparently there is neither body nor any form under his clothes. And we can see it from the sentence undenied by any tangible form. So we can say that the intruder is definitely not a human, but an illusion of the red death. Sorry. And then the words "the intruder" are a kind of metaphor, saying the black is like the intruder. Then in another part of the story, it said that Prince Prospero was made something to deceive the black to prevent it to get into the palace. But in the end, we can find that the intruder, who is no other than the Red Death Black itself, had trespassed the fortress of Prince Prospero's palace. And then how can the intruder get into the palace? The intruder masquerade itself, and then it moving fast around the palace, around the 7 apartments, and then it makes Prince Prospero furious and intended to chase it, and in the end, it killed everyone inside the castle, like it killed other people in the country before.
Okay, thank you for the time. I'm Della Fitriani, and now I would like to explain the second point, which about the symbolism of the intruder. The intruder in the short story has a special purpose. If you read and understand the message or the moral value in the short story, the intruder is symbolizing an important thing. At the end of the short story, all of the people inside the castle was killed by the intruder. From that thing, we supposed that the intruder symbolizes the inevitability of death. If we looked at the whole short story, this story told about Red Death, disease or plague, that brings our memory of the Black Death pandemic, that peaking in Europe from 1347 to 1351. The Red Death killed many of those people and caused a depopulation in that country, except Prince Prospero. Prince Prospero protected himself from the Red Death by hiding behind his castle. As a prince, he should care and help his people to heal or just spared from the Red Death. But what did he do? Prospero didn't care about them, and he was being selfish. You can see on the third paragraph in this short story, Prospero held a party, a must ball, for entertain himself and his 1,000 friends, because it was the 5th or 6th month of his own isolation to prevent the Red Death. The party was very glorious, with many magnificence, and his inviting only wealthy knights and ladies to his castle. They laughed at the suffering of others that infected the Red Death. All of the ingress and egress of the palace has been closed, so they supposed that it's impossible to the intruder for for the intruder to enter the castle. But in the part when the ebony clock rang, the intruder came in the middle of them, and their appearance looked like them. They tried to kill them. The prince and his 1,000 friends was afraid and nervous, so they ran to the first room. But the intruder still chased them. They kept running into the seventh room in the castle to prevent the intruder, but the intruder still found them until they came to the seventh room that has a black wall. The intruder killed all of the people in that room, including Prince Prospero. Actually, what Prospero did for protect himself from the Red Death or the intruder is symbolizing the human effort to prevent the death. However, all people in this world definitely face death. Similar with the short story, all people in the castle try to run or prevent the intruder by hiding in the seven rooms, but they are still found by the intruder. That's why our group assumed or supposed that the intruder symbolizes death, because death comes to anyone unexpectedly whenever and wherever we are. No matter how far we go and how great we prevent ourselves, death will approach us. Maybe we will be died by disease, an accident, or anyways, but I'm sure that all people will be faced the death. That's all from my explanation about the symbolism of the intruder. Now my friend will continue to the next point.
My name is Fania Dwi Yanti. Now I'm going to discuss about the last analysis. In the short story, we found that there are correlation between the intruder, the seventh room, and the ebony clock. Paul describes the seventh room as a dark and gloomy room because of its color. The room was all covered with black velvet tapestries, and the window was red, similar to blood color. This room was very quiet because no one dared to enter the room. It's contrary to the other 6 rooms, which had bright colors and full of people. We usually view bright color as color full of joy, energy, anything related to something positive. While black color usually represents badness, sadness, and death. Those negative things are something we or people avoid and fear in life. So that's why people didn't dare to set the foot in the seventh room and fill the other rooms instead, looking for the positive things they could get in life. Also, it was in the seventh room where everyone died there after trying to arrest the intruder. It explains that no matter how well you avoid death, if the intruder comes, the death comes, then you will still die. There is also an ebony clock in the seventh room. People were afraid of the chimes of the ebony clock. It is shown by people stopping all of their activity and remaining silent every time the clock strikes. But when the chimes of the clock faded away, then everyone laughed and smiled again to each other as if they were relieved that something bad had passed. We assume that the ebony clock symbolizes time of death. Why? Because the clock stopped chiming just as the intruder appeared. The ebony clock counts the time of death on each climb, which means when the intruder appears, the death comes, then the clock stopped. It is also related to people's fear of death, the same as they fear the clock. So that's all from me.
Okay, I think we've reached the end of the presentation. I hope we all can learn something from this presentation. Hope you all always in good condition. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.